Hello and welcome to Hockey's Pacific Revision. My name is Erick Oriana. How is everyone out there doing? Riding solo this week. Holidays are busy. Miguel's last week we took off Christmas break. We had a lot of stuff, family. I went back home, but on this episode, I'll talk about my recent trip. I finally got to go, finally watch my team play the Los Angeles Kings at home, and what a lovely time it was. But Miguel, just like the rest of the Vegas Golden Knights, apparently on IR. But he'll be back next week. So send your best wishes to Miguel Kicks on Twitter. Well, I got your attention. Why don't you rate this podcast 5 stars? Helps us grow. Also, YouTube, just search Pacific Revision. Subscribe. Doesn't matter if you just listen to this thing on here. Anything helps. We really appreciate all the support we've had during Season 2 and, of course, during Season 1. Outstanding. Who would have thought we would have gotten this far? But on today's episode, I'm going to be talking to LA Kings, talking about going back home to Staples Center, also Crypto.com Arena, if you want to call it that. And also, because I am alone, I decided to reach out to our hockey friends and ask them what their New Year's resolution for their team is looking like. What do they hope? What do they dream about when the end of the regular season comes in, and maybe the end of the playoffs, depending on your team? So I'm a happy shout out to everyone I asked. I'll talk more about you guys individually as we get to your teams, but I'm happy that I was able to get a wide spectrum of New Year's resolution. But on new stuff, man, Alexander Ovechkin, second all time, man can score goals. Man can score goals. Crazy that he tied it on a freaking Hattie. And then just, business as usual. So the official race is on, 894. Doesn't seem that far away. I know Miguel and I talked about this a couple episodes back. Man, it's nuts. Absolutely nuts that anyone's even in this position to break Gretzky's record. But here we are. That's going to be a fun chase. And I hope hockey does a good job of talking it up. Because as I've stated here before, and other conversations I've had, my biggest thing is they don't hype up individual players. It's a lot of team stuff, team rivalries, all that good stuff, and that's great. Love me a good franchise, but you got to celebrate the players, and celebrate the players like McDavid, who are doing crazy things, and currently Alex Ovechkin doing this out of this world chase down for one of Gretzky's record. If you can break Gretzky's record, one of his records, or have an opportunity to do it, even, you're probably a generational talent, and that's what Alexander Ovechkin is in terms of being a goal scorer. But man, that's gonna be fun. But enough of that. I got to go back home. It was great. I always love going back to LA. I do miss it sometimes. And it's missing the stuff that you have easy access to, like going to a hockey game when I want. I can go to a hockey game here, but between you and I, listener, I'm not going to San Jose. I'm not going to go watch the Sharks play. Even when they were good, I wouldn't randomly go watch the Sharks play. I'm lucky the AHL's up here, so if Ontario's around, I'll go check them out. The Rain Train, shout out to them. But it's just nice. I grew up like so close to Staples Center growing up that the accessibility there was for me. So having that withdrawal is a big thing. So I'm happy I was go back. I believe it's my first game since March. Yeah, March since going to Staples Center at least. And then my last game in general was in Seattle when I went to watch the Kraken. Also, I was supposed to go to Arizona. Dodged that bullet because of travel and all the messes there. And I usually fly Southwest. And I don't know if you've heard about all this big news during holiday travel, but it wasn't good. So I bailed on it because money. Getting married, under 70 days, by the way, till my wedding. Expensive. Fun fact, who would have guessed? Weddings are expensive. So dodged the bullet there, decided to change my mind because I just really wasn't worth the effort. Plus, when I had to come back to work and all that stuff. Decided to catch a game, go back home, catch a game instead there after Christmas. And I got to go watch my LA Kings play Miguel's Vegas Golden Knights. Love a good inter-house rivalry. The only bad thing is Miguel, a little sad. A little sad that most of his Golden Knights are out, and I get that. No Jack Eichel, no Jonathan Marchessault, no Shake Theodore. The list is ever expanding because even during that game, Alec Martinez left midway through the game, which was probably for the best for me because nothing but former LA Kings scored for the biggest Golden Knights. First goal scored by Michael Amadio on a one-timer, and fucking Braden McNabb on the second goal, just driving towards the net like an offensive defenseman. Because of course. But, hope Alec Martinez is fine. I didn't really see anything that was too obvious. He just kind of left. Might be a re-aggravation of something that he's been dealing with. But the health of the Golden Knights is in question. But at the end of the day, you play the game with who you got. And I'm very happy the Kings got to win that game. Although they aren't excluded from the injuries as well. They have Trevor Moore currently out. Thousand Oaks native Trevor Moore is out. A little bit of a surprise so far, they say day to day, but it's a bummer that I didn't get to see him play. Love me some Trevor Moore. And I believe, who else do we have? Oh yeah, Arthur Kaliev went to IR, which is a bummer because he was having a good season. And some of the Kings are on track to having multiple 20-goal scorers, which hasn't happened in a long time. And by that I mean like 4 or 5. I believe the last time that's happened on one roster for a season was 16-17. So it's been a while since the Kings have had a formidable offense. And at least for this team, scoring, not an issue. At least not so far this year. Who's to say down the line, but defensively, it's been an issue. Goaltending has been an issue, as we've stated before, with Cal Peterson being sent back to the AHL. But Phoenix Copley, it was my first time getting to watch Phoenix Copley play, and he looked solid. I don't trust him to be as panicky and reactionary and flippy-floppy to make an exceptional save like Jonathan Quick, but because that's not where his Phoenix Copley strengths are. By the way, shout out to Phoenix Copley from North Pole, Alaska. That man's not going to lose during December. Let me tell you that much. So far, 6-1. I believe 7-1 now. But he was solid. Late in the third, he had a stop, partial breakaway on Riley Smith. Got it with the shaft of the stick. Like, when the time called, he was there, and it was good. And I appreciate the Kings not allowing a lot of grade A chances. I don't like the fact that they gave up a couple good chances late in the third. After they took a lead midway through the third to make it 3-2. Great shot by Alex Iafallo, by the way. But it is what it is. So you're eventually going to need, during any game, you're going to need your goalie to make a save. And I understand my nurturing need to want Felix Copley to play. And play safely and conservatively. But that's not going to happen every night. So I'm way more ecstatic than of his play of late, because it's been, I don't know, the Phoenix Copley experiment has worked so far. It's stabilized the defense. I don't see them making too many terrible decisions, which was my big complaint for a lot of things at least with Los Angeles of late. You know, the pinching when you don't need to, the being aggressive when you don't have your teammates backing you up, like all those things, like put your goalie in a bad position. But also the goalies haven't been making great saves. Quicker or Cal have had a rough start to the year. But I don't know. It's one of those things. Like, I remember back, oddly enough, that 16-17 season when I believe Peter Budaj played the majority of the year, because I believe the backup didn't work out. I believe it was Jeff Zatkoff to stop up that year, and it didn't work out. And Quick got hurt. Again, just like this team, you're down to your third goalie. And if you have to rely on your third string goalie for more than, a month or two, you're usually not in a great position. But that team made it work. At least for that little run before they traded for Ben Bishop, which wasn't a great trade. I understand wanting insurance, but that's what Phoenix is currently giving us, insurance. Some stability in net, which is something you can't take for granted, and they look good. And I'm happy about that. So it's weird to have many complaints about a team that's currently, I believe, 6th place in the NHL, 2nd in the division. And look out, Miguel. Look out, Vegas. Your LA Kings are now 2 points back. 3 points back then. They also had a win against Colorado recently. 2 points back. So, oh man. Is this team good? I don't know yet. This is the same problem I had last year because last year, low expectations. They were exceeding all of them. But you're also on, like, I don't know what phase of rebuild this is. This year, a little more expectations to sign of Kevin Fiala. The development of the young guys, one more year for experience for them. And I don't know. The abuse of watching this team play terrible defense for the first like 2 months is still there. Where I'm like, I don't know if I trust you guys. I don't know if I trust you guys to be there when it matters the most, when you can lock it down. But Todd's got him playing well. I'm still not sure about Sean Durzi on the left, but it hasn't really been too bad. And him and Roy are pretty decent pairing. I did notice during the game whenever the puck would be thrown up the boards to Durzi's side, it is difficult for him to stop it because he has to turn his whole body, being a right-handed defenseman, which kind of hurt him trying to keep the zone a couple of times. But again, like he just needs, if he reads the situations better, I have no problem with him. Let the teams clear it. Most of them didn't go all the way for icing, which is a thing. We usually take the icing anyway. But stuff like that I noticed. So like keeping the zone when the other team's being like a little aggressive, a little tough for him on the left side. But again, make better reads. It's good. The team seems to be kind of connected, even with these lines in the blenders with Kaliev and Trevor Moore out. But they're great. And you know what? Let me talk more about being at the Crypt, Staples Center. Love it. Downtown LA. Just great location, everything. Got to take my folks and my sister and my fiance. Shout out to my mom who helped me with a little TikTok video. People on TikTok love my mother. So that's cool. She's adorable. Predicted a Kings win. We got it. It might be a different good luck charm, LA. So if you, send us a little care package, I'm sure my mom would be glad to give us another guaranteed Kings win. Just let me know at _Erick Oriana on Twitter. But no, it was great. I love watching my mom go to these games because we sat her at the edge of, or the end of our purchase seats, right next to a Vegas fan, some lady. And they were just conversing throughout the night. I asked my mom, did she trash talk it all? She was like, no, I felt bad when we won. Which I did not. I immediately mocked Miguel multiple times. Every time the King scored, sent him a video. So I don't have that kind of feeling bad about my team beating your team, as you shouldn't. But mom does. Heart of gold, that lady. But it was a great time, and I'm excited to go back. I'm curious to see when my next hockey game is going to be, because I would like to. I don't know. I want to add on. I'm currently making my way through all 32 arenas. I'm at 16, I believe, 17. I believe 17. Yeah, Seattle would have been 17. I want to go to Arizona. Sadly, the Kings only go once, and it was during holiday, which again I don't regret not missing. Also, they lost in overtime, so that kind of helps too. They lost in a shootout, even worse. But I don't know. I want to add on some stuff. So, you have any suggestions for me on where to go for the remainder of the year post March? I'd appreciate it because wedding. Let me know. Let me know where you think my next arena should be at _Erick Oriana, or leave a comment. Now, onward to the friendship part of this episode, because again, I am alone. No one to talk to. But I do have friends. And I asked each one of them from different fan bases, what are your New Year's resolution? Your New Year's resolution for your team. And also, if you have any, please tweet it at us at Pacific Revision at _Erick. Let me know. I would love to know. We would love to know what your hopes are for your team. Also, leave them down comments on this YouTube video. Again, if you like, subscribe, please. Trying to make it grow slowly, but it's getting there. Let's start off. I'm going to leave Miguel. Actually, you know what? Let's do Miguel first. What does Miguel hope and dream for his Vegas Golden Knights? What is his New Year's resolution? Let me see if I have it, and I do. His is to get healthy. Also, by the way, I love the ranges of responses I got. Some are a couple words, some of them are paragraphs. I even got a voice message. I love it. Although, but his is obviously to get healthy. He saw the horrors of the injury plagued last season that he had to deal with. Currently, no Jack Eichel. Pietrangelo was out for a long time due to the health of his daughter. So love to see her get healthy. Shea Theodore is out. Martinez is out for the foreseeable future. You just have a bunch of guys out. That does hurt them because they were playing really well, and all of a sudden you have the rest of the division now catching up. It's hard. It's hard to get reacclimated and stuff because you don't want to panic. It's a long year. Anything can happen. And this is one of these anythings. It'll be interesting to see how Vegas bounces back, to see if they have to make a move or anything. The benefit for them is still they're in net. Very strong. Logan Thompson, great. Aiden Hill, great. It's everything else. Once you start taking pieces off of your roster, it's always interesting how the chemistry changes, what the strengths are, and defensively they're still pretty okay. Like they played a very sound game against Los Angeles. It's just currently like Colorado, dealing with a ton of injuries. Like, do you still have the firepower? Do you have the consistency to kind of continue throughout the season? And I don't know if we've seen anything. The winning division doesn't really matter. It's putting yourself in the best position ever, and what isn't a better position than being completely healthy. So, Miguel, for your sake, I hope they are, because it would be a little funny if, again, Vegas misses the playoffs because for some reason God hates them. I mean, I'll take it. Moving on to the Montreal Canadiens, my buddy Daniel asked him, New Year's resolution for your Montreal Canadiens, and he kept it short and sweet. He gave me lose more, be lucky, win the lottery twice. The race for Bedard is on. A bunch of teams want him. Montreal has about 9 teams below them in the standings. I don't think they'll win the lottery, just with the way that they redid all the odds and stuff like that. Like, it's just harder to move on, as we saw last year. No changes to the top 10, except for Seattle slipping down one and one team moving up one. Like, it wasn't a lot. But yeah, I mean, Montreal's an interesting space. They have a lot of young guys, and I think their payoff has kind of worked more or less. They still have to get rid of people. I think you trade away Edmonton by the end of the year, get you clearly a first-round pick, just like they got for Ben Chariot for some reason. I'll never understand why people were paying that high, but what do I know? I am not a GM. But even I could have told you it was a terrible idea. But I don't know. Edmonton's been linked to Joel Edmondson, so if that's the one big, because they finally give up a first-round pick to help McDavid and Draisaitl, and it's for Joel Edmondson, I would throw a table if I'm an Edmonton Oilers fan. But they're in a good position. I don't think you're in a lose. Like, you can't lose anything if you're Montreal this year. Develop your gun guys, see what they do, and if you somehow win the lottery, would be hilarious if they won the lottery with that first-round pick they have in Florida for the Ben Chariot. Ben Sherratt. I'm butchering names like Miguel now. For the Ben Sherratt deal. God, that would be hilarious. It would be hilarious. Another Carlson situation where all of a sudden you're Ottawa and you're like, I did not expect to get a top 5 pick, but here we are. And Montreal has 2 shots at it. Who knows? But yeah, could you imagine a year where they develop their guys? Cole Caulfield develops to be a superstar, still continues on his track to becoming a superstar. Nick Suzuki doing a great job this first year as captain for the squad. And you have guys like, but who's that dude they call Wi-Fi? Arbor. God, what's his last? It's like X something. God, I'm not going to try. But like they've developed like a more or less a cold following for him. Being a tough dude and getting into fights and winning against guys like Zach Cassidy and Pat Maroon. Arbor Zajac? Whatever. So, Daniel, for your sake and for Montreal Canadian fans everywhere, I hope you do get a decent tire position. And for the sake of the rest of us, it would be funny to make fun of the Florida Panthers for losing their first-round pick and losing a top 5 in that situation. Overall, let's move over to another Atlantic team. I asked my buddy Andrew. Shout out to you, Andrew. Your New Year's resolution for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Andrew would love to see them get tougher. He went into more detail asking for a guy like Josh Anderson. That sort of toughness, developed that tough identity, and he also clearly explained that the scars of losing 1,000 first-round matchups in a row has gotten to him. And I love his explanation for this was, I've seen this guy burn my team, so I want that. And I 100% believe that. I 100% get that, wanting the best part of your team, because, oh, trust me, if I had Connor McDavid or Elias Pettersson or just guys who can score like that, because I think the Kings still don't have like a good scorer. Although they have now a guy who can create stuff in like Kevin Fiala and be a little more creative with the offense. It's always funny to want a thing that you believe your team is lacking. And Josh Anderson might be a decent fit on that second line with Tavares as the center. Or even maybe you do a creative third line in that situation. But I don't know. If you're the Leafs, like it's tough. They're in a tough position. Again, this is where the playoff format kind of fucks them over, because with the way the division's shaping up, it's pretty locked in they're going to play Tampa again in the first round. And that sucks. But also, I believe I looked at it 1 through 8, and recently it was 3 Leafs, 6 Tampa, and you still can't escape them even if you do 1 through 8. So you have to beat the teams you're matched up with. Beat the teams you have ahead of you. But yeah, that would be an interesting trade for the Leafs. Just a guy who's maybe more of a traditional power forward, you know, your Tom Wilsons, your Josh Andersons, guys like that, but with some skill and upside. Because Josh Anderson can score, can create offense, and you do kind of need that, because they do not call penalties at the same rate that they do during the playoffs, or at least not the same type of penalties. You get to your overtimes and you're late in the thirds, they're not going to call anything. So you need that guy. And those guys with their bodies can create momentum and get the crowd in it, especially if you're at home, or can silence the crowd if you're on the way. So that would be it. But the Leafs have a lot of stuff. They still need to figure out a lot of things, and it'll be like all of it, like we've talked about it before in the past. Unfortunately for the Leafs, I don't think you have a successful season until you don't realize what kind of season you had, successful or not, until you get to the playoffs. And I think that's kind of the situation they're in. So, oh man, I don't know. I like the Leafs though. They are decently set up, but I look at them, I'm like, I don't see the playoff DNA. And I guess that's what Andrew's talking about in terms of like getting that sort of, I don't know, playoff toughness. But I hate when people kind of over rely on that. But for Andrew, I hope the Leafs make a decent trade. They did try it with like Nick Foligno, but he got hurt, and that didn't really work out during the COVID season in 2021. But I don't know, Andrew, for you, I hope they get a little bit tougher. Moving on. Friend Erica, big Pittsburgh Penguins fan. I asked her, hey, Erica, New Year's resolution for your Pittsburgh Penguins. Again, another quick and sweet one. Get rid of Brian Dumoulin. Now, this is a tough one for me because I don't watch a lot of Pittsburgh Penguins hockey. I don't know what kind of atrocities Brian Dumoulin has done on ice for the Pittsburgh Penguin fan base. So I asked her to explain. She said, sadly, his decline in being able to play big minutes and match teams with any kind of speed has made his value drop significantly. It's time to give Ty Smith some time. I would agree there. Ty Smith is a pretty good defenseman. I like him. He came over from the trade for John Marino out of New Jersey. And the reliance on vets in Pittsburgh could be an issue, and you kind of see that with just the overall age of the entire team. Crosby, Malkin, Petrie, Carter, like all guys well into their 30s. And with a guy like Brian Dumoulin, also Chris Letang, also shout out for him for coming back after having a stroke. Holy shit. Couldn't even imagine the headspace you have to be on to want to come back and play after you suffered your second stroke really young in your life. So shout out to him, and shout out to the physicians, all that stuff that helped him recover and make sure he's okay. But with the age of the Penguins, you do have to find value with younger guys. You know, they're a little cheaper, and Ty Smith, I'm sure his contract isn't that big, and help him develop. You know, give him a couple more minutes, see what it is, and having older guys play in third and fourth line roles, or in this case, bottom pairing. It's good. Let them excel in the limited time that they have, and that's, you know, you see that all the time with, you know, I'll ring my own bell again. Alex Edler, who plays, you know, he plays an anchor down in the third pair. So I'm curious what kind of moves Pittsburgh does, because they're still in a weird situation where it does feel like a lot like Boston with their like final ride situation. Like they don't have the 1 year that Boston, like their one timeline with guys like Krejci and Bergeron getting 1 year deals. But the clock is ticking on his core. Crosby is so, God, it looks like he can play forever with the rate of the way he's playing 5-on-5. Tremendous. I don't think he gets a lot of the credit that he needs to. Malkin, still great. He scored a great goal tonight. This would be December 30th, the day I'm recording this. But those two guys are still great. Gensel's good. Russ is good. Like, they have a lot of pieces that I'm interested in. Just the supporting cast where you're like, guys like Brian Dumoulin, who may not fit and may not have the traits in the areas of need that you need. So who knows? That'll be an interesting watch to see, again, how much of the future they're willing to mortgage, because for the past 5-ish years since their cup win in 2017, you're trying to recapture that. You're trying to get back and get them one more run. So it'll be interesting to see how much capital they're willing to spend to guarantee one more playoff. But let's move on to a team that is very afraid to do anything to help their superstars, the Edmonton Oilers. I hit up my boy, Nation Dan, over at OilersNation.com, and I asked him, Dan, what is your New Year's resolution for the Edmonton Oilers? Now, my biggest gripe with Ken Holland, their GM, is that he does not do anything to help his team. Evander Kane fell onto his lap. It was a great move by them, and you saw that result in the deep playoff run and his outstanding performance. But that doesn't happen all the time. I understand he got burnt during the COVID-shortened season when he traded for Andreas Athanasiou and Mike Green, and they played maybe 10 games, and that was it. And they walked, and you lost all your draft picks that you gave up for them. But you have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. By the way, Connor McDavid tonight, December 30th, played a season-low 16 minutes and 1 second, and he scored 5 points. This man is a machine. Already has 30 goals, or well over 30 goals at this point. And he might be playing the best hockey that we've seen in at least the modern era. Like, I'm interested to see, like, can he hit 150? Can he hit 160, 170? Can he score 70 goals? Because I believe he's just under a goal a game pace. Look out. This is definitely the year he's winning the Rocket, by the way. So he gets to pad the trophy case of something he doesn't have yet somehow. But just Jesus Christ, Connor McDavid's so fucking good. He's so good. But for Dan, I asked him, his answer was, by the way, shout out to Nation Dan. What a nice guy. Lovely guy. At the Dan Analytics on Twitter if you want to follow him. Great guy. If you had to pick one thing for the Edmonton Oilers to have for the rest of the season, it would be to have health for their key pieces. Depth is not our friend right now. Side mention for better team defense overall. Buddy, your defense is rough. Again, Darnell Nurse, Cody Ceci, Tyson Berry. I understand I made fun of you last season and y'all beat us, but it's not a good defensive core. Trading for Brad Kulak does make it better, but he's not a game changer. And speaking of defense, goaltending is also a part of it, and I feel so bad for Jack Campbell. I hate that I was right about the situation in Edmonton. His confidence just isn't there anymore. And it started deteriorating away when he was in Toronto last season. And that was kind of his big issue when he came over to LA, and Billy Ranford, our goaltending coach, wizard, by the way. The reason Phoenix Copley signed is because he wanted to work with Billy Ranford. But his confidence was a big thing when he got traded over here from Dallas. Again, top 10 pick, round 1. Just didn't have it. And I feel like that's happening now. And luckily for the Oilers, Stuart Skinner. Jesus Christ. I really have become Miguel with him not gone. Can't pronounce the name. Stuart Skinner has played well. And he's clearly a starter. We can stop beating around the bush for there. Stuart Skinner's a starter. I understand Jack Campbell's getting paid a shit ton of money, but they just extended Skinner for a couple years. You don't do that if you're confident in your goaltending situation, and they are not. I also did a follow-up question. Most of the time I didn't for these, but for him, do you think Kenny Holland finally pulls the trigger on a big trade? And he said, I hope so. Fuck, I hope so. But he doesn't have a big pulse on what he wants. Apparently, the Edmonton media, per his insight, says they're looking at a Matheson-style type. Mike Matheson, so big and tough. But Dan is hoping for Jacob Chychrun, as most people are. By the way, it's gotten out. Jacob Chychrun, 2 firsts is the asking price. And with the way he's been playing, like all the fears of him starting the season with an injury and not playing until later on, he might be worth it. 2 years, I believe it's this year and 2 more after at 4.6 for Jacob Chychrun. That's an elite defenseman who can change the makeup of your team easily. But for the Oilers, yeah, their depth is not great. Boren Fogle, guys like Ryan McLeod, I believe Matthias Janmark, who's signed in free agency from Vegas, has worked out kind of okay, but he's been playing at time 6. I believe their biggest, I've seen a lot of love for Klim Kostin. And if you're like me, prior to them playing in LA, I had no idea who this guy was. Big ol' who? But Klim Kostin has barely been a decent depth add for them. So, yeah, I think for them, you just got to do anything you can to support McDavid and Draisaitl, especially when you have guys who these two are arguably, McDavid definitely the best player in the league. But Draisaitl is probably in the top 5, maybe top 3. And when you have this amount of talent, you have to support them. And you have to look at them, and kind of they're like more or less disappointing starts this year. Currently 4th in the division of the Pacific. You have to do everything to help them. And maybe, yeah, Evander Kane comes back from his terrible injury and it fixes everything, but their 3rd and 4th line still don't have that kind of solid depth that you're looking for. Like, I don't know. At least for me, I don't see it. Where I look at one guy in that bottom 6, I'm like, dude, that's the guy who can just score when it's timely. You know, not in bunches, not a lot, not lead any team in scoring for any period of time. But when the team needs to grind out a goal late in the game, when you're double shifting McDavid and Draisaitl, you know, who's making goals individually and apart from them? You know, who can create their own stuff and create their own luck in that kind of situation? They don't have that, in my opinion. So it'll be interesting because, again, I wasn't prepared for the Kings to be as decent as they've been this year in terms of standings. So we'll see what this Oilers team does. Maybe being in 4th by January is going to trigger something within the mind of Ken Holland to do something. But someone's going to go get Jacob Chychrun, and the Oilers do look like a decent landing spot for that, as well as the Ottawa Senators, apparently. So who knows? Lastly, Buffalo, the Sabres. We asked my boy John Fick, a previous guest on this podcast. Hey, John. Buffalo Sabres New Year's resolution, what do you got? He said, keep it up. This team is so much fun. The culture is glowing. Really need to tighten up defensively. And I think that needs to come from some more acquisitions, a better defenseman or a lockdown 2-way forward. But overall, just keep playing fun hockey. And again, a situation just like Montreal. You're young. You're good. Figure it out from there. I think they're done selling for the most part. I think if someone comes asking for, you know, freedom from that Jeff Skinner contract, you wouldn't say no. But he's stuck there forever. Let's not pretend like that's a fever dream, anything but a fever dream. But they're young. They have Rasmus Dahlin, Tage fucking Thompson. That's a guy who's probably top 5 in terms of just his play and his presence this year. along with a surprising guy like Jason Robertson. But Rasmus Dahlin's on another level. Kyle Poster recently had a fucking hat trick, which is nuts. So you can see that team is playing loose. The thing about them that's interesting is that they have a plus like 22 goal differential, but are 21st in the league. So you could see that young, goal scoring ability that they have, but also at the same time, defensively, he's absolutely right. Like I don't see them outside of Dahlin having that lockdown guy or the guy who could play big minutes when it's necessary. Not now. And he talked about acquisitions. I don't think you make those now. I think you do those through free agency, or you do what Seattle did for like getting a guy like Oliver Bjorkstrand, where, dude, next season comes around, the salary cap is only going up by $1 million. There are teams who are going to make decisions on roster players, and that's when you can strike and add guys like a Oliver Bjorkstrand, like the Kings did for Kevin Fiala, because the Minnesota Wild couldn't afford him under their cap situation. So there's going to be guys like that you can trade for. And I think that's where you strike, because, again, Buffalo's not a big free agency landing spot. You can take advantage of other places' cap situation, and Buffalo has all the cap in the world. So it's good to see them. The emergence of Tate Thompson has been phenomenal for a guy his size to be doing the things he has. And it's just good to, see the city of Buffalo get behind their team, and they'll be dangerous. I think in any game, they're going to be to have a chance to win it, but it all comes down to, like most the young teams, consistency. And can they do it day in, day out? They fucking throttled the LA Kings. But then the Kings came back and beat Boston, who's still currently number 1 in the league in terms of standings. So any given night, and it's just building off that consistency. And that's where Buffalo needs to improve, and they'll get there. They'll get there, especially with their young guys currently developing and getting more playing time. And, Tate Thompson is a lesson to be learned by everybody. It takes time to develop these young guys. Recently, Alex Lafreniere got scratched, and a lot of people are, up in arms about that. But it takes time sometimes. Like, not everyone can be Connor McDavid or Austin Matthews, come in and have your career take off immediately. Sometimes it takes time for your game to develop and your body to mature, because you're in your your late teens, early 20s. Like, it just takes time sometimes. You're seeing it with Gabriel Lardy this year for the Kings, and his thing was just develop and finally get healthy. And that's it for a lot of teams. Like, I don't think anyone saw Jason Robertson, at the start of his career and think he was going to be producing at the level that he is, but he is. Same thing with Tate Thompson. So, development takes time, and sometimes, it just takes the current and right situation, the right line, the right team for it to click for you. And you're seeing that in Buffalo right now. So that's it. Those were my friends. And shout out to them. Shout out to Andrew, to John, to Dan, to Erica, to Daniel, to Andrew. And, of course, to Miguel for all contributing for their teams. New Year's resolution. Let me hear yours. I would love to hear your team's New Year's resolution for yourself. You can tweet it at us at Pacific Revision or at _Erick Oriana on Twitter. For the Kings is find an identity. Plain and simple, I'll leave it at that. Defensively, I'm still worried, so I don't know if I want them to make a trade yet. Wouldn't love Jacob Chicken. That price tag is high, but someone who can bolster up that left side of the D still would love it. But that'll do it for me. I've been going on for a while. Surprised how much talking I can get through. Just hanging out with all of y'all here, so I appreciate it. You can find us again at Twitter, at Pacific Revision. You can find me at _Erick Ghana. That's _EricKorllana. Please help us grow. We appreciate all the support you've been giving us. Please rate this podcast 5 stars. Leave a little review. Tell them that you love Eric way more than you do Miguel, greatest host on this show. Also, YouTube, if you could just like, subscribe, comment, helps the algorithms get us out there to all these fine hockey-loving folks. Also, I'm on TikTok, by the way. Do sometimes get bored, make a little LA Kings Back TikTok at Erick Oriana. Same thing, minus the _. But for now, that'll do it for us here. Happy New Year. We're looking forward to a spectacular 2023, and I hope all of you are doing all right. gonna celebrate this new year with your loved ones, or just doing the thing that you love to do. Don't forget to treat yourself. But for now, that's it from us at the Pacific Revision. See y'all next year.